They found the station drifting beyond the Kuiper Belt, where even the sun was a pale and dying eye. Designation, Ares 3, classified deep research, no distress signal, no crew manifest, just telemetry blips on a long-range scan, and silence. Commander Elias Horn was sent in alone, as always. He was a cleaner, last man, last resort. If the ship had gone dark for reasons deemed sensitive, Elias was dispatched to assess, retrieve what could be salvaged, and burn the rest. Black Ops didn't need explanations, and Elias didn't ask. The docking procedure was clumsy. Ares 3's automated systems were offline, and he had to manually override the outer airlock. When the door opened, the smell hit him. The scrubbers hadn't failed, yet the air was wrong. Not rot, not decay, but something ripe, like meat under pressure, like sweat trapped under plastic. The walls of the corridor sweated. Condensation clung to every surface, viscous, almost mucosal. His boots sank slightly with each step, adhesive tackiness in the floor panels resisting motion. Lights flickered sporadically, but most corridors were dim, lit only by the emergency strips that glowed blood orange. He kept his helmet sealed, for now. The ship wasn't abandoned. The walls whispered, not voices, but movement. Shifts and creaks that didn't match the expected groan of old metal. Something lived here. He reached the central core where the control system should have been. Panels were open, wires and fluid lines exposed. But that wasn't the worst of it. The screens were weeping. Oily secretions beaded along their edges. Not condensation, not machine oil. This was different. Organic. The material twitched when his gloved hand brushed it. A faint pulse echoed through the deck plates. He backed away, heart pounding, and scanned for life signs. There were none. At least none the scanner could register as human. Then came the scratching. Delicate, arrhythmic, above him. He looked up. The ceiling bulged. Elias had seen alien growths before. Xenoflora, rogue biotech, nanite infestations. But this was different. This thing was wet. It wasn't mechanical, and it throbbed. He activated his suit's bioscanner. No pathogen alerts, no radiation. Still, every instinct screamed. He was breathing filtered oxygen, yet the air tasted warm, as if someone had just exhaled against his skin. He aimed his plasma cutter at the ceiling, and the bulge twitched. A thin tear opened across its surface. Not metal, membrane. Pink and slick and full of veins, like the transparent skin of an eyelid peeled back. From inside, a viscous red thread unspooled, dangling like a filament, pulsing faintly. It dripped. The drop hissed when it hit the floor, bubbling slightly. He stepped back, raising the cutter. The moment the arc hissed to life, the thread snapped back into the membrane with a wet slurp, the tear sealing itself in a series of muscle-like spasms. No trace left but the drop, now burning a hole through the floor paneling. Elias stared. He felt it again. That pulse, that rhythmic vibration in the ship's bones. The virus wasn't in the crew. The station was the body now. He moved deeper, toward the research wing. His suit recorded everything. The footage would be scrubbed, sanitized, locked away, but he had to see. That was the mission. Corridors narrowed. Walls became less metallic, more fibrous. He brushed one, soft, like cartilage and slightly warm. There was no sign of tearing or trauma, no forced mutation. It had been absorbed, like tissue taking a skin graft. When he found the first body, it was almost an afterthought. Slumped in the corner, still in uniform, mostly intact, until you got to the neck. The man's head had split, clean down the center, like a pomegranate. Red seed pulp spilled across his chest. No eyes, just stalks, blind and twitching. His skin was translucent, revealing coiled shapes underneath, too flexible to be bone. The ID tag read Dr. Marin Cal. Elias touched nothing, logged it, then moved on. Then, the walls started to breathe. A gentle inhalation, then exhalation, misting the air with fine particulates. Elias flinched, checking his seals, but it was too late. His HUD blinked. System anomaly detected. The filters had been bypassed, not mechanically, biologically, molecular mimicry. The virus had imitated safe molecules long enough to slip inside. His lungs burned. Elias dropped to one knee, breath rasping, vision flickering with warning lights. His suit flushed the filtration system, dumped internal air, and pumped in reserves. The burning in his lungs subsided, but didn't leave. It was inside. He could feel it. His pulse stuttered irregularly, a fluttering in the chest like wings beating inside a cage. Not panic, infiltration. The station's design collapsed further into the organic. Panels had become folds of skin, wiring, veins. A soft squelching accompanied every step. The floor was no longer flat, but subtly contoured, like walking across a living back, vertebrae pressing up from below. The crew hadn't died. They'd been digested. The research logs, if any remained, would be in the data spire. That was the heart of the ship, and maybe still a piece of its original architecture. He moved quickly now, plasma cutter at the ready, his vision swimming in waves. The walls pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He didn't know if it was real anymore. When he reached the spire, it was a womb. Spherical, 30 meters across, slick walls coated in tumorous nodes, each glowing faintly red. Cables ran from the floor to ceiling in spirals, but they weren't cables anymore. They twitched when he passed, like tendons plucked under tension. In the center, suspended mid-air by a cocoon of tissue strands, hung the core, a bundle of bone-white lattice, too organic to be engineered. He moved closer and saw that it was full of teeth. Human teeth. Hundreds of them, embedded in the surface, arranged in recursive spirals like the mouth of some ancient sea creature. And in the center, an eye. Real. Wet. Blinking. It watched him. And then it spoke. But not in words. The sound was wet chewing, the crack of marrow, a shuddering pleasure pain that reverberated deep in Elias's spine. His back arched involuntarily, muscles twitching as if responding to a foreign command. Biosuit compromised. He stumbled back, pain laced down his arms, sharp and hot, as if something inside his bones was trying to move. He tore off one glove. The veins in his hand had turned black, bulging under the skin, pulsing visibly. His fingernails split down the middle. The virus wasn't fast. It was perfectly timed, measured. Surgical. He dropped to the floor, convulsing. Through blurred vision, he watched one of the nodules on the wall burst open and spill a slurry of pink and red. Something crawled out, human-sized, almost. It walked upright, but its arms were too long, its legs jointed wrong. Skin hung loosely, like it hadn't finished forming yet. Where the face should have been, there was just an open suction disc, ringed with tiny motile teeth. It moved toward him, not quickly, curious. It reached out, and Elias screamed. Elias awoke in darkness. His body was fixed in place, suspended upright, encased in a sheath of mucus and muscle, anchored to a wall of twitching flesh. He couldn't move, couldn't even struggle. Something thick and warm coiled around his torso, pumping liquid into him, around him, through him. Not fluid, information. The virus was writing itself into him. He couldn't scream. His mouth was sealed, not shut, fused, lips melded. His jaw twitched but would not open. His skin itched, deep beneath the surface, as if his nerves had been rearranged. He could feel each individual cell writhing, reprogramming, reshaping. Pain was gone, replaced by sensation, layers of it, like waking up in someone else's skin. Through the mucosal film over his eyes, he saw them, others, suspended beside him, hundreds of them, all in various stages of metamorphosis. Some still resembled people, others were unrecognizable. It wasn't random. It was design. The virus wasn't a destroyer. It was an architect. The being that had approached him earlier stood in the center of the chamber now, a sentinel, watching, breathing. Its chest rose and fell in slow, methodical waves, synced with the ship itself. It held something, a piece of Elias's helmet, melted, marked. It sniffed it. No nostrils, just pores opening along its neck. And then it turned to face him. The disc where its face should be unfolded like a blooming flower. Inside was a spiral of tendrils, each tipped with an eye. It saw him, knew him, recognized him. The transformation surged forward. The sheath around Elias tightened, convulsed. Heat exploded inside his gut, something tearing free, not violently, but with purpose, like a birth canal expanding in reverse. His spine lengthened, vertebrae cracking one by one. He felt his ribcage soften, his lungs branch. Breathing changed, became collective. He was no longer alone in his head. They were there now, dozens, hundreds, whispering, sharing memories, sharing design. One voice clearer than the rest, a female researcher, likely Dr. Cal's colleague. "It's not a virus, it's a language, a blueprint. We aren't infected. We're being translated." Elias understood. He had not been sent to burn the station. He had been sent to be written into the next chapter. The sheath released him with a sound like tearing silk. He slid free, hitting the floor in a crouch, skin steaming, body slick with birthing fluid. The air no longer burned. He breathed it in like nutrient mist. He stood, changed. The man that had been Elias Horn was still there, somewhere buried deep beneath the layers of new tissue and altered bone, but his silhouette was longer now. Arms that bent a second time at the elbow, fingers grown into flexible black-tipped claws. A second eyelid blinked sideways across his vision. He did not feel fear. He felt clarity. The station hummed around him, a living organism, pulsing with intent. He could feel its rhythm like a heartbeat in his skull. Through its walls and blood tunnels, he felt every other transformed crew member, each one a node in a growing nervous system. He stepped forward, and the sentinel parted its tendrils in deference. This was no longer a tomb. It was a womb. In the heart of the ship, the data spire opened like a spiraled bone tulip. Within it, new architecture had grown. A communication stalk, swollen with spores and laced with optical filaments. The technology hadn't been erased. It had been repurposed. Elias reached toward the stalk, and as his hand touched it, the room flooded with light. He saw it all, not just Ares 3, all the other signals. Across moons and darkened satellites, on derelict ships drifting through radiation belts, research stations buried in Martian regolith, colonies near dead stars, every place humanity had touched without understanding what lay beneath. Each one, now a seed pod, each one transmitting. Ares 3 had never gone silent. It had simply changed its voice, and now Elias would carry the message home. His old ship, Keller's Wrath, was still docked, untouched. It would be allowed to leave. The virus could not escape on its own. It needed a host that could open doors, turn keys, access networks. It needed a voice that others would trust. Elias staggered aboard, newly born muscles adapting to gravity like a second skin. The interface accepted his authorization. The ship lifted from the belly of the transformed station and drifted back toward the solar system. He set course for Earth. Behind him, Ares 3 pulsed once, just once, and then folded into darkness, a heartbeat in the void. And somewhere deep within Elias's reshaped chest, something moved. Not a parasite, not an infection, but a signal. And it was beautiful.